Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to Willow Creek Homestead. If you are new around here, my name is Kenzie, and in today's video, while it is still fresh on the brain, we are going to be covering all things chickens and just kind of compounding everything that I have learned throughout my first year of owning chickens and things that I think are really important for first-time chicken owners and people that are wanting to get into this. So we are going to cover the good, bad, ugly, all kinds of things. I have just some essentials out as well that we are going to cover. And you guys are just going to hear me rant and talk about my thoughts on this because I have a lot of them. So first and foremost, let's kind of give an overview as to this whole situation, right? Because I feel like myself, along with many others, have kind of been bamboozled by social media and what chicken keeping looks like versus what it actually is. And these are just my experiences. So I don't want you to take anything and, run with it and think that that is all the time. But I definitely do want to be that creator that is very, very honest about owning chickens so that other people are not just seeing the highlight reels of what chicken keeping is and then running to get into this and then ending up in similar situations like I have been. So for anybody that might be new around here, I post shorts every single day on various different things, but a lot of the content on my shorts for my TikTok, my Facebook, and my YouTube consists of chicken keeping. So a lot of that is like real-time, up-to-date stuff. And we started out with 22 chickens. We have lost 5 of ours in the past year to various different things, okay? So while you guys are seeing this, I'll probably release it 2 days from now. So you guys probably saw that Tank passed away. Unfortunately, that's why this is like so hot on my brain. And I'm actually moving my scheduled video back so that we can just kind of chit chat about all of this. But I feel like I have ran into everything that you could possibly run into as a first-year chicken owner. So I definitely just want to delve into all that. So let's start with the positives of chicken keeping, okay? Obviously, a lot of people get into chicken keeping because of wanting eggs, which I agree with. That is something that we truly love. It's super convenient to go out there and get eggs from the coop every single day, to know exactly what you're feeding your animals, to know exactly the care that they have been given, to know that you are consuming something that is just better quality overall is absolutely fantastic. I think that that's such a positive of owning chickens. And then the enjoyment aspect, right? There's a lot of enjoyment that comes with owning chickens. You guys know I sit out with my chickens every single day. I'm always out there. Every single time that I have a bad day, I always go out and see the chickens because it just makes me feel better. And they are just so fun to watch. I know a lot of people think that chickens are dumb, but they're actually not. They're very, very intelligent and they're very, very fun to have, especially for the kids. It's a really easy livestock animal that you can get your kids involved with in terms of their care. And there's just a lot of teachable moments that come along with that. So that's something that I appreciate as a parent in having chickens is my daughter has really been able to be hands-on with them and learn just as much as I have. So there are several pros that come with owning chickens, and I'm going to be the first person to tell you, regardless of what I say in this video, I still think that chickens are worth having. I just think that people need to think about it a little bit more before they get them. So let's kind of cover really quickly what it takes to house chickens, right? So chickens actually don't require a lot of space. Now, if you want to be more friendly to your chickens, obviously the more space, the better. You can choose whether you'd like to free range them or keep them inside. Just be aware that you oftentimes can't have it both ways, okay? I get a lot of slack for having my chickens mostly in an enclosure, but the reason that they're mostly in an enclosure all the time is because we live out in the country and predators are just so prone out here that if I were to allow them to free range every single day, I would be risking them getting eaten or whatever, So you kind of have to think about your ability to allow them to free range versus if you would prefer to keep them in an enclosure. Another thing that I would mention that I was not aware of whenever I first got my chickens is cedar bedding is a no-go. Cedar can cause a lot of respiratory problems for your chickens. I believe that cedar is also not good for any other small animal. It really, really impacts in their respiratory systems. It can cause a lot of infections and things like that. So cedar is going to be a no-go. I know a lot of people have switched to hemp bedding. You can use sand in your coop if you would like to. Now here in Iowa, we get incredibly, incredibly cold. I'm talking -30 to 40. So personally, I prefer kind of like a fluffier substrate in my coop. But if you'd like to use sand or something like that, you definitely can. But just a piece of advice, stay away from the cedar bedding. That is a no-go. I know they sell it at like Tractor Supply with the pine and, various different options that you can pick from. I didn't know that. So that's just something that I want to point out to you guys. Another thing is the roosting bars. Your chickens do not have to have roosting bars. I went without them for probably a year, but it is a nice addition if you can offer them. So what we did was we took 2x4s and we laid them flat side down, which helps prevent bumblefoot. And that is something that we're gonna get into as well. I'm gonna kind of go over all of the things that we ran into in terms of like sicknesses and stuff and kind of why these essentials are important to that. But in terms of housing your chickens, you don't really have to go above and beyond. And I say that as somebody that has a $3,000 chicken setup. Okay, you definitely do not need all of that. Chickens do not have to be expensive. They do not have to be costly. It doesn't have to be a lot of money as an upfront cost to you to get started with it. But if you want to go crazy like I did, you might be a little bit broke, okay? But you definitely do not have to. Another thing that I would mention in terms of getting chickens is whatever your limit is, I would add a couple more to it. And I'm not saying that to sway you to get more of them. But like in our situation, for instance, I wanted 20 chickens. We ended up with 22 chickens and now we have lost 5. And with having 2 roosters and selling eggs and things, those ratios get, kind of mixed up. And that is a little bit stressful. So if you were looking to turn this into a business, just understand that chickens are pretty prone to unaliving themselves and they will find ways to unalive themselves. So I would go on the side of having more instead of less so that if you run into situations like I have had this year, you're not left with kind of like a detriment to your business or maybe like your rooster hen ratio. I would plan on giving yourself a little bit of cushion. And then obviously you're probably gonna fall victim to chicken math. It's just the reality of the situation. So I would plan on doubling or tripling your coop and run. And if you're not aware of what chicken math is, if you go to get chickens, you are definitely going to be made aware of what it is very, very soon because your entire life is going to consist of chickens and wanting more chickens and then wanting even more chickens. And then you're going to lose sleep and you're going to lose work. And it gets really, really crazy, really, really fast. But whatever your limit is, I would plan on adding a couple more additionally, just as a cushion, depending on what your plans are for chicken keeping. Okay, I had to go get a drink, friends. I don't know about you guys. I have been obsessed with Fresca lately. If you are looking for a sparkling water that doesn't taste like crap, Fresca is definitely it. It's so freaking good. So those are kind of my thoughts on like getting chickens, the pros of them. And I want you guys to know that housing them and keeping them is not really the issue. Those things tend to be very, very easy when keeping your chickens. But now let's get into the cons, okay? And this is the part that I really want to focus on. There have been a couple of other people that I have seen cover this and in depth and just explain, how hard it is to actually keep chickens. It's very, very difficult. And that's the biggest takeaway that I would like anybody that is thinking about getting into this to understand is that it is actually very, very difficult. Birds are so complex, okay? Think about your cat and your dog, right? My cats and my dogs never have health issues. My bunnies, anything, any animal I have ever owned or kept, I have never ran into the amount of health issues that I have with my chickens. Birds are so complex. They are so sensitive to absolutely everything. So let's get into some of the cons, okay? And I jotted things down so that I could keep track of everything here. The first con I want to talk about is the misinformation on the internet when it comes to chicken keeping. You have to be so careful who you are getting your information from because another thing with chickens is that symptoms will oftentimes mimic one another, okay? You can look at a chicken and think one thing and it is actually the exact opposite. And if you are taking in information that is bad information and you start treating for the first thing when your chicken actually needed treated for the second thing, it takes no time at all for that chicken to croak. Like they are just that sensitive. Time is of the essence when it comes to treating sick chickens and understanding and knowing what is going on. I mean, some of my chickens that have passed this year, it was a matter of literally life and death. And I'm talking within hours. If I didn't act when I did, to save them. So the amount of misinformation on the internet is really, really troubling. And there's something else I want to point out. So I am not against herbal, homeopathic treatments and things for your animals. I'm really not. I'm very pro all of those things. I've made videos on this. However, what I'm not pro is the people that recommend those things when your chickens actually need medication or actual treatment, right? Like a lot of people will use herbs as a dewormer. Those are not actually deworming your chickens. Those are just used as a preventative. So like if your chickens actually get worms and somebody's recommending that you give them herbs, that's not a good recommendation, right? And those people are probably losing birds at a higher rate because they're not willing to do the necessary steps and buy the necessary things to keep them alive. So that is one piece of advice that I want you guys to understand, that there are a lot of people on the internet that lack the knowledge to give good advice to new chicken keepers. So I was recommended a book. I have not purchased it yet. I will leave it over here, and I'm going to insert some pictures and just information and things throughout the video that you guys can come back and look back on. But there was a book that I was recommended. I have not bought that yet. I will leave it up here if you guys are interested. A really knowledgeable friend of mine recommended that book. But my piece of advice to you is to find people like within your community that you trust and are willing to take their word for things. Like me, I'm very, very fortunate. I have two very knowledgeable friends on TikTok that if it was not for them, my chickens would not have made it as long as they did. I also found a veterinarian that is semi-close to me, so I have good sources and resources to, look into and reach out to. So that would be something that I think is very beneficial, especially for new chicken keepers. There is a huge learning curve to this. So just be careful who you listen to and be careful about what you're reading online. And then speaking of veterinary care, we're going to kind of segue into that because that is one of my points as well. Finding a veterinarian to see your chicken is near impossible. When people say that you are going to now be your own chicken veterinarian, I want you to be prepared for that to be the truth, because people would tell me that all the time. They're like, I don't think you understand what you are getting yourself into. And I will be the first person to say, I did not. I did not understand what I was getting myself into. Some years are going to be really easy. Like this prior summer, whenever I owned my chickens, easy peasy, smooth as pie. If you would have asked me if owning chickens was easy or hard last summer, I would have told you that it's super easy. This year, however, it has not been easy. So the whole Goldie situation, you guys watch that. I've made plenty of videos on her. Goldie was the first one that had something happen to her this year where I needed to reach out to a veterinarian. So going all the way south and then going all the way north, both directions from where I'm located, it was probably 2.5 hours that way and about 1 hour and 40 minutes that way. I called every veterinary clinic in the surrounding areas that far that way and that far that way, and not one of them would take her until I found Dr. Hensel. So we were seen and then recommended because the vet that was closest to me was not able to do anything. Every single time that I called, I kept hearing, we don't see chickens, we don't treat chickens, we don't do anything with chickens. And at first I was kind of like, I don't understand why more people don't see and treat chickens, because chickens are the most popular livestock animal. I can't remember, I'll put it on the screen, how many chickens there are in the United States, but there are a lot of people that own chickens. There are a lot of people that raise chickens, and it was just so mind-boggling to me. I'm like, how is nobody seeing them? Well, now that I've had them and I've had the sicknesses and things happen, I understand that, because they're very complex and it takes a lot more to see them than just regular veterinary care. Okay, so if you are not prepared to spend money and a lot of money at that, because some of these essentials that you need for your chickens are not cheap. They're really not. It's a lot of money to keep up with. If you are not prepared to spend money and administer medications and kind of become your own veterinarian and seek information and do all of the things that it takes to do that, I would recommend that you think a little bit longer on getting chickens, because sometimes veterinary care is needed for your chicken to survive. And that's just what it is. Like, no amount of things that you can do at home is going to prevent your chicken from passing away. Sometimes veterinarian intervention is needed and you might not have that option. So you're going to have to make a choice on whether you want to go above and beyond for your chickens or if you just don't care to lose them. And some people are like that. That's totally fine. Personally, I like to try my best to give them the best amount of care that I can, because it's a lot of work to raise a chick to a laying hen. It's, 6 to 7 months of work and loss of sleep and all kinds of things. Okay. So I try to give them the best quality care that I possibly can, because I've already put in the work to get them to that point. And when you lose them, it stings. So the lack of veterinary care in avian medicine is a really, really, really big problem, and you might not have that option in your area. If you are thinking about getting chickens and you are the type of chicken keeper that would opt to take them to the vet if it is necessary, and if you can afford it, some people can't, and that's totally fine. But I would just make phone calls in your area and see if you have anybody local to you before you bring chickens to your home. I mentioned that the essentials and kind of, just their care and things can be costly. Now, it doesn't have to be, but I will say that the essentials and things that you need to treat sick chickens can be very costly. Now, not only is it costly and can be very costly, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Like, I'm gonna go into it, each chicken here soon, and kind of cover everything that we've went through and cover these items, but it's a lot of work. With Goldie, I was up probably every hour to 2 hours tending to her, along with Trixie, along with Tank. It's a lot of work. You're gonna lose sleep. You're gonna lose time. It just is. It's a lot of work. And as much as people wanna say, don't get attached to your chickens, they're just chickens, you're going to. You're going to if you look at them more than a number in your flock. And like I said, there are people that do that, and it's totally fine. I totally understand that. But for us, we kind of have the mindset of like, they are giving eggs back to us, so we are going to try our best to provide care to them. And it's really hard not to get attached to them, okay? You're probably going to end up running yourself into the ground trying to care and save them, and it's a lot of work. Another thing I will point out is that chickens are, like I said, they're very sensitive, but when they start to decline, I have personally noticed it's almost impossible to bring them back. I don't know why that is, but trying to revive a sick chicken is one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And after 5 times of trying to do it this year and having no success, I think I can honestly say that it's more difficult than keeping them, trying to revive them back to health and getting your hopes up, because I've been let down so many times. We had to put our favorite chicken down this year. You guys know that. And it was just an absolute freaking nightmare. So don't get your hopes up is what I would say also. If you're going to try and tend and care for a sick chicken, don't get your hopes up that they're gonna pull through, because chickens are just so sensitive. Like, their vitamin levels, things that are not a big deal for us and other pets, are a really, really, really big deal for chickens. And you will run yourself into the ground and get your hopes up, and then they still die anyway. So it's a pretty unfortunate, sad ordeal, but that is just the reality of having them most of the time. Okay. So I went ahead and took out all of these essentials here. So now I'm going to cover basically everything that I have ran into and just kind of what I have picked up over this past year of having chickens. Now, there are tons more essentials that I don't have that I have used. There's more that I have not even ran into to have to go buy yet. Okay. So this is just what I have on hand. These are the things that I think are important to have on hand. And on the screen, I will list some other ones that I need to buy myself, and I'll just kind of compile an entire list. I will also link all of this stuff down below for you if you would like to look into it. So one of the common things that we have ran into this year, which is very, very common for chicken keepers, even if you're very experienced or you're just getting into this, and that is bumblefoot. So bumblefoot is caused from Staphylococcus. It is a bacterial infection that can get into your chicken's feet via cuts, abrasions. Chickens fight with their feet. Oftentimes you'll see them do that. Even the smallest cuts on their feet can cause bumblefoot. Bumblefoot can also be caused from improper pressure on roosting bars, rocks, dirt. I mean, you name it, it can happen for a variety of different reasons, okay? And I will leave a picture on the screen. It is most notable by a defined scab on the bottom of a chicken's foot, okay? So obviously I can't show you how to treat those things, but I do have prior videos back on my channel. But some of the things that you are going to want for bumblefoot, and we're gonna start with this one because it's the most common, is some Epsom salt. And Epsom salt is used as a soak in warm water to draw the infection to the surface of a chicken's foot. And then when you remove the scab, it helps pull all of that infection out. Molly, I actually have out in a crate right now. We are on like 5 times of trying to treat bumblefoot. And if you just leave like an itty bitty amount, like even if you think you have it all, if there's an itty bitty amount in the foot, it will continuously come back. So I've had to go out and buy more Epsom salt here recently because I've been treating Molly. So you will need that. Another one is Prid. So that is a drawing salve. I've heard people use honey for that as well. So definitely need the Epsom salt and any kind of salve or component that's going to help draw out the infection in a chicken's foot. And it's very important because it can spread to other parts of their body and can be life-threatening if it's not treated. Sometimes you will need veterinarian intervention for like a debridement, which is where they go inside of the foot and take all of that out. But so far, I think we might have Molly's stuff under control. If I can't get it treated properly, she will probably have to go to the vet for that as well. But something else that I always have on hand for bumblefoot is just this cloth wrap. So I use the wrap, and then I also have tape, which helps hold the wrap in place. Oftentimes it's hard to get this to stick because a chicken's foot is like, webbed and has cracks and crevices and stuff. So it's a good idea to have tape. And then the next thing that I have in my essentials kit for bumblefoot is Neosporin. Now I have this kind, and no, this isn't the generic. You can also use generic Neosporin as well, but you just want to make sure that it has no pain relief in it. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but the pain relief Neosporin is not the one that is ideal or used to treat bumblefoot. So if you have bumblefoot, these are the essentials that I would recommend you always have on hand. And then obviously you could just buy them in case you run into that problem because it is so common. But definitely a good idea to keep things like that with you. Another thing I always have in my essentials kit is gloves because chickens can be quite gross. I also have a designated pair of tweezers that I use for getting scabs off whenever my chickens have bumblefoot. Another thing to think about though for like the tweezers, and then I also have just like a little medicine dispenser that is in mLs. So a lot of the times your chickens will get medication dosages in mLs. So make sure you have a dosage thing for that. But what I like to do personally, so that you're not, facilitating bacteria and things, or maybe potentially causing spreads to other chickens, either buy multiple of them or wash them off really, really good in bleach water. Any of your utensils that you plan to use for another bird later on, make sure you are really going the extra mile to get all of those utensils clean because you don't want something to spread to another chicken. So as I mentioned, Tank had an impacted crop, and 90% of the time your impacted crops will turn into sour crops. So sour crop is basically just fermented food in a chicken's crop, and it is a yeast infection. Now you will see online, here's the bad information part, where somebody will hold a chicken and they'll just tip them down and let all of that run out of their mouth because that's just how it comes up, is like in liquid form. But what you're essentially doing is spreading all of that yeast infection through the throat of your chicken, okay? So what you're gonna want to do instead is go get some miconazole. I believe the non-generic name is Monistat. This is a vaginal yeast cream that you can use to treat sauerkraut in your chickens. So with Tank, whenever I noticed that he had developed sauerkraut, and some key ways to tell that they have sauerkraut is you'll hear almost like gas releasing from their throat. And when the gas comes up, you will be able to smell it. It smells absolutely putrid. There's no mistaking if a chicken has sauerkraut or not. But when they do, this is great to have on hand because then you can use this to treat that. And all you do is just administer a pea-size amount 2 times daily. And this is what will help get rid of that. 2 other things that I have in my essentials kit, these came from treating Trixie for coccidia. So I did a video already on Corid. Now I have since learned, since Trixie was sick, that Corid does not treat all strains of coccidia, okay? There are some strains that are very resistant to treatments, Corid being one of them. So my vet and I kind of determined that Trixie probably had one that was resistant to this as a treatment. So if you start the Corid and you recognize that your bird is not doing good, that could be why. So I was recommended Toltramag. So this is also a coccidia treatment, and this one is for, I believe, all strains of coccidia, either that or it protects against more than the Corid does. The other thing is Corid, you cannot administer vitamins during the treatment, and it is a 5-day treatment. With the Toltramag, I believe you can administer some probiotics, prebiotics, and vitamins. and it's a lot less harsh. I think if I would have been able to treat Trixie with the Toltramag from the beginning instead of treating her with this, she probably would still be with us. So either way, whatever one you choose to treat coccidia with, these are both really, really good things to have on hand. My personal recommendation is to get the Toltramag instead and go that route. But if the only thing that you can find is the cord, this is also awesome to have on hand for treating coccidia. Somebody mentioned that coccidia was more prominent in younger birds, and it definitely is. So younger birds are more susceptible to coccidia, but it can also develop later in older birds. So Trixie was, I believe she was about 6.5 months old, and we had a lot of rain here. So don't let somebody tell you that it can't be coccidia just because your bird is older. They definitely can develop that as well. It just might not be as common, but that definitely was the case for Trixie. It definitely can happen in older birds, and if it does, it is good to be prepared. A couple more things that I have in my essentials kit is Vet RX. Now, this does not treat any type of respiratory infection. It just helps with the symptoms and clearing the nasal passages for your chickens. So this is just basically like an herbal liquid that you can put around a bird's nostrils. You can put it on their back, you can put it under their wings, and basically whenever they breathe it in, it helps release all of the infection and congestion and things that they have going on. So this is a great just herbal alternative to antibiotics if you would like to try that just to give them some respiratory relief. The other thing that I purchased to treat Trixie and is now in my essentials kit is doxycycline. This is an antibiotic, and antibiotics are really, really hard to find nowadays if you do not have a vet prescription. So I can't remember the website that I was able to find this on. I will link it down below for you guys. But this was absolutely awesome for treating her respiratory infection. By the time that coccidia had ran its course in her intestines, because that's what it demolishes and creates the most damage in, this had actually cleared up her respiratory infection. Whenever we had her necropsy done, she had no signs of respiratory at all. So this actually did kick it. Another antibiotic that you can find and have on hand at all times is Tylosin. Both of these work pretty good in conjunction with one another. It just depends what you're trying to treat, but if you have any sort of respiratory stuff, doxycycline is a really good thing to have in your essentials kit. So this stuff is called Betaricin, I believe is how you pronounce it, and this is an antimicrobial spray. So what this does is it just helps treat any wounds. So on this, it says pecking wounds, cuts, frostbite, vent prolapse. One thing I will say is this is very expensive stuff. This is very, very pricey, but it works very, very good. So if you have anything that is brewing, that is, a cut or a scrape or, minimal and things, this stuff is awesome to have on hand. Just be aware to use it sparingly if possible, because it does tend to be a little bit costly. And then you guys heard me talk about how important vitamins are to birds. So vitamins are, I can't even say it enough. They're so essential, and I'm still learning on what each individual vitamin does for a chicken and the benefits of those things. So I'm not going to delve too much into that because I don't want to give the wrong information. I try to make sure I'm always giving accurate information to you guys. But these are the vitamin essentials that I have on hand that are complex and fast acting. So these are prebiotics and probiotics, right? There are little packets like this that you can get that are for vitamins that you can put in water. A lot of the times the ones in water take a while to absorb, or they're just not as concentrated. Whenever you have a sick chicken, it's very, very important that you give them vitamin dosages that are fast acting, that are complex, that can just boost their system, right? So one that you are always going to want to have on hand is Nutri-Drench. And the bottle says rapid, rich nutrition supplement for all classes of poultry. Again, it's just very, very complex. So you can administer this in food, you can administer it in water, or you can give it to them directly as a complex, just quick boost, because vitamins help them so much that being able to give them something in its concentrated form is really, really beneficial. So I always have Nutri-Drench on hand. This is some liquid B12. This brand is called Rooster Booster, and this stuff is absolutely awesome. Again, just very, very concentrated and fast acting. And then Poultry Cell is another one that you guys have probably heard a lot of people talk about. These are just oral vitamin supplements, and they are rich in iron, which is really, really, really good for your chickens. You just have to be careful not to overdo it with the iron. I have heard several people mention that. So you want to give it to them in a way that they can benefit from them, but don't give them too much. But if I was going to recommend like 3 complex vitamins to just always have in your essentials kit, these would definitely be it. And then these 2 things are just things that I picked up as like daily, I guess you could say like additives for my flock out there that aren't having any issues. This I had never heard of. It's just a daily water additive that supports digestive health and immunity. I don't give it to them every single day, because whenever your flock is healthy, you want to be careful not to give them like too much of a good thing, you know what I mean? But sometimes here and there, like herbs or vitamins or like, you know, digestive health supplements and things like that, that's totally fine to give them. And then I also always have on hand just some of these prebiotic and probiotic packets that I can insert into their water out there for everybody to drink and kind of get some use out of. So if you are still around for the end portion of this video, I just wanted to say thank you. I have so many of these topics like hot on my mind right now that I just want to talk about it. You know what I mean? I want to educate people and make people understand what kind of an undertaking it is. And I mean, that's really common with, you know, really any animal. There are people that go out and buy cats and dogs that shouldn't go out and buy cats and dogs because they weren't willing to put in the work that it took to have them. But I just want people to understand that chickens are just a completely different ballgame. They really, really are. It's a lot of work and time. And I just want people to be more aware of that, because I definitely wasn't. And I probably needed somebody to tell me like, hey, this is really what this is going to consist of, instead of just the facade that is portrayed on social media. So to wrap up this video, the key takeaways and positives, like I said, I still recommend that you get chickens. They are so fun. They are incredible animals, and it's just overall like a very positive experience when things are going good, right? When things are going good, having chickens is amazing. And I feel like chickens is kind of the opening door to other things. You know, people start with chickens and then they get ducks or guineas or turkeys, and we have plans for all of that as well. So it'll be really fun to take you guys along on that journey. But I just want to point out that there are a lot of cons that come with owning chickens. I know personally a lot of people that refuse to even own them because of all of the sicknesses and ailments and, you know, things that come along with them. So I just want people to be aware of that. They say that you will lose anywhere from 5 to 6 chickens a year. And so far we have lost 5 of them, and that has held true. So when they say not to pick a favorite, they're not saying that to be mean because I got told that all the time. I would make videos with Goldie and everybody was like, you shouldn't do that. You should not pick a favorite. And I was like, why? You know, why does that matter? And I soon came to learn and understand why people were saying that, because owning chickens is just, it's very complex. It's very difficult. It's very complex. It's unlike anything that I have ever personally done or ran into. And I'm sure for the ones of you that are watching this video that own chickens, you can probably attest to the fact that I'm speaking a lot of truth in that regard. And if you own chickens and you've never ran into the problems that most of us have or most of us are going to run into, count your blessings, because it's an absolute nightmare when one thing after the other just continues to happen and there's really not a lot you can do for it. But I've tried to pack this video with as much good information as I possibly can. And more than anything, I just want to give you a secondary opinion on raising chickens and keeping them. Like I said, I still think you should do it, but I think that you should take some time and really, really think about it and make sure that you are willing to potentially be driven crazy, honestly, because that's how I feel. And I'm sure a lot of other people feel that way too. But hopefully you guys got some good information out of the video. Hopefully you guys learned something. I love sitting down and chit-chatting with you guys. And some things I didn't cover in this video because I want to make like designated long form videos to chicken keeping as well. It's just hard to do sometimes whenever everything hits back to back to back, but I am going to get better about that. We're going to do some discussions that I think would be really, really informative and just like care like throughout the day, and kind of go over all of that stuff together in my long form videos. I'll try and work on compiling that and making these a little bit more informative so you can look back at them other than just the shorts that I post. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. If I have left anything out in the video that you think is important, please, as always, feel free to share it down below so that people can look back at this, and especially for new chicken keepers, have a place to go where information is shared and maybe they can pick up some things to help them along on their journey. But otherwise, I will see you guys in next week's video, and I hope you have an amazing week. Bye, friends.